The Exorcist Believer is a 2023 supernatural horror film written and directed by, I kid you not, Halloween's and Pineapple Express director David Gordon Green. The film stars Leslie Odom Jr., Alicia Jewett, Olivia O'Neill, Jennifer Nettles, Norbert Leo Butz, among others. Ellen Burstyn even makes an appearance. Now, this upload might come late since I went to a pretty late showing of this, so let's discuss. The premise of this film revolves around a man named Victor Fielding, played by Odom Jr., who is trying to raise his daughter Angela, played by Jewett, on his own after the death of his wife. One day, she goes out into the woods with her friend Catherine, played by O'Neill, to perform a ritual in an attempt to contact her Angela's deceased mother, but during their hike in the woods, they get lost. They stay missing for several days as their parents and community search for them in great panic and distress. Days later, they turn up seemingly unharmed except for some burn marks on their feet, but they aren't the only ones who have returned. When it comes to characters, I feel like this one has a little more going on in this one compared to the original. There were a lot more characters in this story that were involved in the exorcisms. That gave it a little more depth, I feel. Almost every character in this felt so unique and had so much written into them, which made it feel a little more immersive. The original, as horrifying as it was, surprisingly didn't feel very reliant on characters as it was on atmosphere and story. The only character we get any backstory is the priest. We don't really get a chance to know Reagan or Kreese or learn who they are or anything about them, unlike the novel. So I do believe that the premise is this movie's greatest strength because of how much depth is put into it. I do believe The Exorcist was better though, and the original Exorcist was better though in terms of tension. However, this one did have some nice tear-jerking moments, especially with the themes of sacrifice and loss. However, despite this movie being a lot more eventful, I ultimately liked the original story better, since even though we didn't learn too much about Reagan and her mother, Father Karras is still a good character and the scares are a little more overwhelming. I give premise a B+. Very emotional character-driven story, but slow in some areas despite all the action. Next is acting. The acting in this film was pretty decent. It wasn't anything amazing, but I did feel that they did a good job. I especially liked the way that Leslie Odom Jr. portrayed Victor, since he did feel very real in some areas in terms of parent roles. He has that attitude of being kind of annoyed with her daughter's mischievous, yet lovable and playful behavior. Yeah, you can still tell he loves her deeply and cherishes her greatly, especially given that she is sadly all he has after the passing of his wife. And the interactions he has with his daughter works pretty well and actually gives off the impression that this is a real father-daughter relationship. Ellen Burstyn also did a good job of making her character seem as though she's seen some shit. You could tell just from the interactions she has with Victor that she is very familiar with all of this, even without the dialogue. I give acting a B+. Everyone did a fine job. Finally, directing. David Gordon Green did an okay job with this film. I just wish it could have been a little scarier, and I feel like the suspense could have been a little better. The one part that did have me on edge was the part where the two girls go missing, and since it never really is made clear what exactly is happening to them during that time, what's worse is that they slightly imply that they encountered something very horrifying in the woods, something that may have to do with their slowly changing behavior. Other than that, while it's not bad, it did feel kind of underwhelming in some areas. I give directing a B. Definitely not as good as I thought in terms of horror, but Gordon manages to weave a fair story. Overall, The Exorcist Believer is an alright film that might be a little disappointing for people who are looking for the same disturbing punch the original had. While it does have a lot more going on, and I do feel the original did so much better in terms of atmosphere and tone, along with intensity and suspense. I give The Exorcist Believer a B. Not the best horror movie ever, but not as bad as others say. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.